Let's begin with the breaking news in the trial of former police officer Michael Slager. CNN's Brian Todd is here with the very latest, along with CNN legal analyst Laura Coates. Brian, jurors are deliberating right now, saying for all practical purposes they're deadlocked, but the judge is instructing them to continue.
That's right, Wolf. A lot of dramatic and fast-moving developments in the court. Just now, we were told that the jury is now back in the courtroom and the judge has been handed a note. We don't know what it says. Things moving very fast. We can show you a live picture of the courtroom and Judge Clifton Newman there speaking. Just moments ago, when the jury was brought back into the court, the foreman said that they want to keep deliberating. The judge then asked them to let him know what further explanation of the law they needed, and then he sent them back into the jury room. But just now, they've been brought back into the courtroom and handed the judge a note. It is not clear whether the judge may declare a mistrial or whether he will ask them to keep deliberating. Earlier, the jury indicated that a further explanation of the law might help them reach a consensus here, but also one juror sent a note to the judge saying that he could not in good conscience convict Officer Michael Slager of the murder of Walter Scott. That juror seems to be the real issue here. The other jurors could not convince that person to convict. That person has held out. And now we see the court in session there. It's possible that a mistrial might be declared, or it's possible the judge may send them back in to continue deliberating, Wolf.
Laura Coates, it just takes one juror to deadlock an entire trial like this. 11 jurors can say convict, but if one juror is not convinced beyond a reasonable doubt, that judge has no choice but to call it a mistrial.
Absolutely right, Wolf. And, you know, that's really how the justice system works. I mean, you have to have unanimity. And all that a prosecutor is, fearful of is that little inch of reasonable doubt. And what a defense attorney holds on to for dear life, or in this case, Officer Slager, was that reasonable doubt. And, of course, one thing people were talking about is the fact that we all thought this was going to be a murder case, just the murder case. They also, at the end of the trial, said the jury could consider a voluntary manslaughter charge. That may have been enough of a signal to the jurors to say, that one juror to say, well, listen, there may be some doubt whether there was premeditation or malice or whether fear really was justification here. I don't think it was, but that may in fact be what's driving this person to be this one holdout juror.
The defense attorneys, Brian, as you know, you've been watching this very closely. You were down there. That they argued that, yes, we all saw the video of Walter Scott running away, and he was shot in the back by the police officer, Michael Slager. But we didn't see everything that happened before that, leading up to that moment. The police officer in this particular case, his defense attorneys keep arguing. In his mind, he still felt threatened.
That's right. That's been the central core of the defense case here, Wolf, that we don't know exactly what happened in the moments before this video was shot. The defense claims, Officer Slager claims, there was a tussle, there was a fight, and that the dead man, Walter Scott, took his taser. Well, there was no video to support that. There is some indication of a taser in one piece of video here in the cell phone video, but again, the role of this taser, how it was used, is really not clear at all. What is clear is that you see Walter Scott being shot several times in the back by Officer Slager as Scott runs away. Seemingly a very, very strong and convincing piece of evidence here of some misconduct by that officer, possibly murder or manslaughter by that officer. This jury not yet reaching a consensus on this. One juror holding out at this point.
Jeffrey Toobin is with us, our senior legal analyst. Jeffrey, it seemed to so many people who just saw the video like a slam dunk. Here, the police officer has his gun. The other man, unarmed, is running away. Walter Scott, and the police officer shoots him in the back several times.
You know why it seems like a slam dunk, Wolf? Because it is a slam dunk. This is an outrageous case. This, of course the defense has a story here that there was some altercation. That never gives a police officer the right to murder someone who is running away. I mean, the message that this hung jury sends, if in fact it winds up to be a hung jury, is it just shows how difficult it is to convict police officers of even the most appalling crimes. I mean, even in a world where there are controversies about Michael Brown's death in Ferguson and Eric Garner's death in Staten Island, this was a case where the prosecutors arrested the police officer instantly because the evidence was so clear. I mean, I just find this a heartbreaking situation because this is a slam dunk case, and it is not resolved.
You know, we just learned, Jeffrey, that the judge, he's told the members of the jury, all 12 of them, they can go home for the weekend, but he wants them to resume deliberations Monday morning. He is not yet ready to declare a mistrial. Give us your analysis of that.
Well, you know, judges hate mistrials because they don't want to retry cases. And, you know, he gave what's called a dynamite charge or an Allen charge, which is named after a Supreme Court case, which basically says to the jurors, look, you're not supposed to give up your conscience, but you should listen to each other, reason with each other. But, you know, there is a long history of single holdout jurors, which is especially maddening because it's just one person. You know, I think prosecutors recognize if a jury is split 6-6, 7-5, they recognize that there are problems with their case. But if a jury is split 11-1 for conviction, that means almost always that there is a problem with the juror, not with the case. And that's certainly the conclusion I draw here, but there's nothing that can be done about it except to have the juror change your mind or have a mistrial.
We'll see if that happens. Go ahead.
Interesting, what we heard earlier, Wolf, was that the one juror who held out gave the judge a note himself saying he couldn't in good conscience convict Officer Slager. Laura, you tell me. That seems unusual. Even the judge, I heard him in court say it's unusual for a juror who's not the jury foreman to give him a note like that.
It is, and the judge does not want to know which way someone's leaning because they want the jury to deliberate and be able to come to. You almost have the Norman Rockwell painting in your mind of the woman leaning back in her seat being the actual holdout. But here, also, think about the optics of this. This judge does not want to let this case go, not only because this case should have been a unanimous conviction, but it's also Friday night after a case that has been widely and highly publicized and is very, very, very volatile in terms of what it actually represents to the community. Right. I hope in my mind, and I know all of our hearts, we hope this will be resolved in the minds of the community in the right way and that it will be treated fairly. But remember, the Friday night after this case is being judged is a mistrial. That would not be what you'd like to go in, just optically speaking, as a judge. Even more so, there is an opportunity at this point that this one juror may in fact decide that even though his conscience perhaps can't be the guide, maybe the law, as it should be, is actually his guide. And that may ultimately change his conclusion. It may not, but it's not a Friday evening.
By asking for the instructions here, it looks like the other jurors may be trying to convince this one person, follow the law here, you know, maybe trying to nudge this person one way or another. Very dramatic, and now they've got to pick it up on Monday.
Right. Yeah, the trial is in recess now. They'll pick it up Monday morning. We'll see what happens then. All right, guys, thanks so much for that. Let's